Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
You're locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back to Duke Loves Rasslin, the show about pro wrestling and everything else. What's going on, everyone? Hopefully you haven't been swept away with all the rain. Hopefully you haven't melted with all this crazy hot weather. I mean, it's a heat wave. Heat wave all over the damn country, I'm telling you. And here in sunny Boston, Massachusetts, we're expected to top over 100 degrees in the next coming days. I mean, it could be 103, 105 degrees outside. So please, everybody, stay hydrated. Bring your sweat rag with you. Make sure you mop your brow. Don't be walking around looking all crazy out there. But yeah, please stay hydrated as much as you can. On this week's episode, I got two powerhouse discussions happening. Our friend Lovell Porter, the well-respected Lovell Porter from WrestleZone.com and BlackRabbit.com. He's going to join us to talk about the latest that's going on in pro wrestling. But before we get to any of that, I got a guy by the name of Stix. And we've had Stix on the program before. He's a guy who has cerebral palsy, but he hasn't allowed that condition to stop him from doing all the great things that he's doing in life. So, I want to talk to Stix because he was recently at the AEW pay-per-view, Fight for the Fallen, and he had an interesting experience, and he needs to talk about some serious things. So let's just go straight to Stix right now, and then afterwards I'll share some further thoughts on that.
Okay, well, Go Wrestle is a Daytona-based promotion. We run wrestling shows each and every Friday night. You can check it out, all of it out at GoWrestle.com. We have a streaming service available to everyone all over the world. You can watch on any device. It's a 10-day free trial. It's $5.99 after that, and it's up to this point. It's 115 shows of wrestling content, and now we have a foreign influence as well. We have a French connection with a wrestling promotion in France that we also promote their content as well. So you can see an international flair along with all of the great Go Wrestle content right there at GoWrestle.com.
It's pretty cool because, you're affiliated with and you do commentary with Go Wrestle. A little birdie told me that you actually are starting to take some bumps and things like that as well. Are you thinking about actually getting involved in the action, Stix?
Oh, man. I mean, I've always been interested in playing on the field, man. I'm not a sideline kind of guy. So when I was approached with the opportunity to start actually training, I jumped at it, and I was basically told, hey, man, you have this here. Why not take advantage of it? So, yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays I spend my time down at the Go Wrestle Dojo, learning the business the hard way, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So we'll see where it goes from there, but I'm very, very excited about every possibility that's in front of me.
You're a guy who is a huge wrestling fan, just like me. You love your wrestling. You love it so much that you found a promotion to actually get involved with, which is cool. But in addition, you go to a lot of live events down there in Florida where you are. Tons of NXT events, and you try to check on the other indies and what have you that are in the area. You've been to AEW's event, and in fact, you were at the pay-per-view this past weekend.
Yeah, this past weekend was actually Fight for the Fallen. Fighter Fest was a couple weeks before, but yeah, Fight for the Fallen in Jacksonville was the last show, but I actually went with a couple of friends, and it was an interesting experience. I'll just put it that way.
Well, let's start from the beginning here, Stix. So first and foremost, let's refresh everyone's memory. You actually have cerebral palsy, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A mild case of cerebral palsy. It forces me to walk with canes. It affects my balance and coordination, fine motor skills, things like that. And when I do things like go to wrestling shows or anything that requires an immense amount of walking, I use a wheelchair. I keep one in my trunk at all times because you never know when you may need an extra set of wheels or an extra set of legs in my case.
Sure. And when you go to wrestling shows, just from a general standpoint, do you see a lot of other folks in wheelchairs and what have you? Is that a significant amount of the audience that it's noticeable?
Oh, I feel like it is. I know that the rest of the world feels like we're a minority, but I mean, disabled folks love wrestling, especially in Florida.
Good call. Good call. So you were at the AEW pay-per-view there, Fight for the Fallen. And you had tickets, so it wasn't like, somebody just gave you some. You had tickets, so you spent your money there just like everybody else. You wanted to see a good show. And unfortunately, there were some challenges that you experienced. So why don't you share with everyone what happened there?
Okay, so the Fight for the Fallen event was held at the Daly's Place Amphitheater, which is an amphitheater that's actually attached to the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium, which is owned by Khan family. Coincidentally, they own AEW. But the amphitheater is designed in such a way where there are a lot of stairs, and there's 2 ramp access points for people like myself. Now, the tickets that I bought were general admission tickets, which happens a lot in my case. And a lot of times what you do when you purchase a general admission ticket is you say, when you get to the venue, you say, hey, I need an accessible seat. And they adjust your seating accordingly. So what happens usually is I'll find an attendant and say, hey, I need accessible seating. They say, hey, wait right here. We'll get you switched out. So initially what happened was, I went with a couple of friends. They had different seats than I did. So I got to the main concourse level where you enter the amphitheater, and I found an attendant, and I said, hey, I'm on a normal seat, but obviously I need accessible seating. Now, I'm in my wheelchair at this point. I get to a point where the attendant says, okay, sit here for now, which was an actual accessible seat, and we'll adjust your seating, and, if somebody comes, you're going to have to move, which is exactly what happened. I was sitting there for about 2-3 minutes, and I get a tap on the shoulder, and they say, okay, these people actually have these particular seats, but we'll move you to somewhere else, which, no big deal. But what they did was they had me sit against the wall. I felt like I was in timeout in the corner, but they had me sit against the wall for 15 minutes or so until the attendant supervisor came with a new ticket for me. And then they moved me to the other side of the amphitheater with also accessible seating. And the way the accessible seating is, at the amphitheater, you have your floor seats, and then you have your first sort of incline to the upper level, which isn't really that high off the ground. And that's where the accessible seating was. It's kind of like a row straight across the amphitheater, and it's just all accessible seating. But it was designed as such that when everyone stood that was on the floor level, you couldn't see anything. If you were sitting down, you couldn't see anything. And it was frustrating, to say the least.
So you were in a position where you were put in the quote-unquote accessible seating section, yet you were not actually able to see the action.
Oh, absolutely. I'd say I missed a good 60-70% of the show. Because, I mean, you know how wrestling fans are. You get excited, somebody's about to come out, somebody's about to make an entrance, whatever, there's a high spot. They stand up, right? Well, for me, that's not so good, especially in this situation, because all I saw was the back of people's t-shirts or their asses in some case. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, did you bring this to the attention of the folks who were working the venue that evening?
I mean, the ticket attendants really couldn't do much because where else are they going to put us? You know what I mean? Where else are they going to put people like me who can't see? There was no other option, right? Just literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. There was nowhere else for me to sit where I could have seen, anything. Because even the second level, the higher seats, the cheap seats, as it were, which is, there's nothing wrong with buying cheap seats. I've sat in the nosebleeds plenty of times. But it wasn't accessible. There was no other way for me to get where I could see.
Wow.
So, the poor ticket attendant, what are they going to do? If they're making whatever they're making to work a show, they don't care. It's not something they even think about, I doubt.
Who do you think is responsible not only for the issue, but who's responsible for solving the issue?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think you have a poorly designed venue for people like me, people with a disability, people who have to watch a show differently than somebody who can just walk up and take a seat. And I think it's the promotion that rents the venue. In this case, they're one and the same, right? Because the Khans own the Jaguars, they own the building, and they own AEW. So it's a poorly designed venue, and it's not something that. And I understand that we are a fraction of people that buy tickets, right? But we buy tickets, and our money spent is just like yours. So if I'm going to go to a show at an amphitheater design like that and have an experience like I did, why should I buy another ticket? If that's how I'm going to be treated, if I'm going to be shoved in the back and put in a situation where my experience is such that I can't enjoy the show, I really want to, and I'm telling you, know me, man, I'm a positive guy. I try to be on the bright side of everything. I tried my very best to be as positive as I could be. But by the third or fourth match, I was just dejected is the best way to put it. Why did I even come? Why didn't I just stay home and watch it for free on my TV, on my laptop, with the best view possible?
Wow. Now, again, you go to wrestling shows. This isn't a new thing for you. This is something that you do. You enjoy the live event experience. For the most part, how would you compare the experience at Fight for the Fallen, that show, compared to other shows in the area that you frequent?
Honestly, 100%, this is not me knocking AEW. This is not me knocking the product. This is the worst experience I've ever had as a wrestling fan.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. So, you said something interesting. The venue itself is on the same property as where the Jacksonville Jaguars football team is, where they play football?
Yes, they're literally attached. It's one and the same. You could walk across the concourse and literally see the field. And
so the same people who own the facility that you had this terrible experience in are the people who actually own AEW as a wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we know the problem. The accessibility seating area is really not suitable, and in fact, it is a problem because it's hard to see, especially if somebody's standing up when somebody's sitting in those accessibility seats. I don't understand why you would put seating like that in a place where somebody could stand in front of. I don't really,
like I said, it's just not something that's thought about. It's not. We are a section of society that is not actually thought about. I mean, sure, you have to build a ramp and you have to have so many handicap parking spaces. According to the ADA, which is, for those of you that don't know, the Americans with Disabilities Act, requires venues, businesses, what have you, to have a certain number of handicap parking spaces and a certain level of accessibility for their patrons. But the experience of said patrons is never considered. This is where we're going to put you. This is where you're going to sit. This is your designated area. Sit here and be happy. That's how we're looked at.
Yeah, and it's a damn shame, quite frankly. And again, this isn't a personal experience just for Stix. You're saying that there are other people who are in wheelchairs as well who are having difficulty seeing as well, right?
Oh, well, okay, so the accessible area went from one side of the amphitheater across the other. I mean, I could see the entire section from where I was sitting just by line of sight, right? And it was full. It was full. So to say that people with disabilities don't buy wrestling tickets is ridiculous because it was full. So I know for a fact, in fact, the guy sitting next to me, a friend of mine who I used to compete with in wheelchair bodybuilding shows, had the same issue. Like, by the third or fourth match, the two of us collectively are screaming down in front, sit down, we can't see. And people are just turning around looking at us, completely oblivious to the fact that we're in wheelchairs. So I know that there were people who had an equally bad time or a worse time than I did.
So let me ask you this, Stix, and I mean, one thing I know about you is that you're a person that absolutely loves pro wrestling.
Oh, I do. I'm a sponge.
and on top of that, you're also a person who absolutely is a problem solver. You don't just want to say, hey, there's something wrong there. You're a person that may have some personal opinions and thoughts on how to improve upon things. What comes next? What is your suggestion on how things can improve?
Well, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I have an idea. I have a couple ideas. But the best way for AEW, other wrestling companies, and the like to make improvements is to sit down and we can discuss the issue. I mean, if you don't have anyone to consider this, we could talk about it. I mean, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I have some really cool ideas that might help. And if they're willing, let's sit down and have a conversation.
Well, and I think that's cool of you, the fact that you would even offer to do that, especially, consider the bad taste in your mouth that you have from this experience. You spent your money on the tickets, you were hoping to have a good time, and unfortunately that just did not happen, not because there was a lack of wrestling action going on, but because literally the quote-unquote accessibility seating section was not accessible.
Right, and it's like I said, it's out of sight, out of mind. If you don't live like that, you can't possibly understand what it is to have to think about stuff like that. And I'll tell you a cool story. I had a conversation with an old colleague of mine when I was working at a gym in Chicago. I said to him, you realize that every time I walk into a room, I have to think about how far am I from the door? Is the floor wet? Am I going to slip? How many people are in here? What's the quickest way for me to get where I need to go without tripping over stuff? Is there stuff on the floor I need to worry about? Normal people don't have to worry about that because their body reacts when you tell your legs to move, they move. When I tell my legs to move, there's an argument inside my brain. My legs, I don't feel like it. No, we have to move. We have stuff to do. So if you don't have that experience, if you don't face those struggles, how could you possibly understand how to fix the problem?
I mean, that's well said. That's well said. Listen, if wrestling companies and specifically right now, AEW, if anyone from there wants to get in touch with you, let's share some information. What's the best way that you'd like somebody to reach out to you to, set up an opportunity to have this type of conversation where you may be able to provide some assistance to them on how to make the experience actually accessible for folks who need accessibility?
Well, I think social media is how we do things these days, right? So here's all of my social media information. Facebook is Ken Stix, S-T-I-X, Ray. Instagram, StixMan92, STIXMan92. Same thing on Twitter, StixMan92. Reach out to me. If you want to have a conversation, if you're a company looking to expand your understanding of accessibility, whether it be in wrestling or live events, period, reach out. We can have a conversation. And like I said, I'm not a genius. I don't have all the answers, but I have some damn good ideas, and maybe they can help. That's really all I'm looking to do. And I want to be clear. I'm not bashing AEW. I'm not, here to pick a fight with anybody. But there's a problem, and it needs to be addressed.
That's well said. That's well said. And I hope that, folks in AEW are paying attention here and do, in fact, reach out, because this is not acceptable. And I'm going to just state my personal position on this. It's not acceptable. It's 2019, man. This isn't, the 1960s here. There is absolutely no reason why, especially in a venue that the ownership of the promotion owns themselves, there is no excuse for our folks who, need accessibility services to not be accommodated. It's just ridiculous. So I really hope somebody reaches out and works with you on this issue, because it's a problem. And like you said, if you personally don't have to face this problem, it's easy to ignore and overlook and what have you. I haven't been to too many venues where I personally have noticed the accessibility seating being set up like that. Most of the venues I've been to personally, and I'm talking not just pro wrestling, but concerts and sporting events and what have you, the accessibility seating is set up in such a way that nobody can stand in front of you. So the idea that, folks will be placed in a position where that can happen is just beyond my understanding. It's usually like a stadium-style seating where, the folks in the accessibility seats are raised up and there's nothing in front of them other than the view of whatever it is that they showed up to see.
Absolutely, so and that's been my life. That's been my life. I mean, you go, you buy a ticket, whether it be, even when I was in radio and I was working events, and I saw somebody in a wheelchair, I always made a point to say to them, can you see? Can you see? It's so simple. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. Can you see? And it seems like such an easy thing. But like I said, out of sight, out of mind. They don't think about it. We're such a minute fraction of their profit margins, they don't care.
Wow. Powerful. Stix, are there any other organizations or anything else you want to plug before we wrap this thing up here? Well,
I've been I guess for lack of a better term, advocating for people with disabilities for a long time. I used to do a lot of work with the Able Trust, which is an organization that helps people with disabilities find jobs and live independently and, things of that nature. So if you are a person with a disability, particularly in the state of Florida, look up the Able Trust, and they can help you with all kinds of things. They're located in Tallahassee. They're very in tune with state government. If you need housing, if you need employment, if you need anything, they can point you in the right direction. If you don't even know where to start, they can point you in the right direction. And there's an Able Trust-like organization in every state in the country. So if you're a person with a disability and you don't know what to do or where to go or how to advocate for yourself, I promise you, if you go on your phone, type in disability advocacy, there's a group in your state that can help you get where you need to go.
Stix, let me tell you something, man. I really appreciate you. Taking the time to come on the air and talk about this and bring awareness to a really serious issue. And, hey, man, just keep doing what you're doing because I'm telling you, you are an inspiration. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. Hey, we got to get on this Boston bad boy situation. This is the second time we've had a conversation, and this man is nowhere to be found. What is his deal? Is he ducking me? He doesn't like me. I don't know what the deal is. Hey, man, thank you so much for the time. I love you, brother. You're a good friend. You're a good man. Everybody, check out GoWrestle.com. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, that definitely was an eye-opening conversation. And shout out to Stix and the team over at Go Wrestle. It's an indie promotion out of Florida, Daytona, Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Stix does commentary for them, and he's going to be doing some other things, of course. But this guy is a wrestling fan first and foremost, and he loves going to live events. And unfortunately, AEW's Fight for the Fallen, they came up very short as it relates to providing proper accessibility seating to the handicap. In his case, himself and other folks who were in wheelchairs. So, I hope the folks over at AEW, I hope they reach out to Stix and everyone can put their heads together and figure out some solutions to these pretty serious problems here. I mean, not for nothing. And I was talking to Stix before we actually started recording our conversation, and he said something that was really interesting. He talked about the fact that the disabled community, they spend money too. And, when they spend money, just like any other consumer, they have an expectation of particular quality of service. And when experiences are as bad as the ones that Stix and others experienced at Fight for the Fallen, I mean, you're potentially driving those customers away for good. Gotta fix that, man. Gotta fix that. So, AEW, I hope, again, someone from your team reaches out to Stix and let's, hope you folks can put your heads together because this is just unacceptable. Period. Unacceptable. Moving on down the road here, I promised you that we would have our man, the well-respected Lovell Porter, on the show. And something, without further ado, let's just bring him on. So here we go, my conversation with Lovell Porter.
So like I said, folks, it's just been a crazy time period in pro wrestling. And, everyone wants to talk about this and the ratings and the war and all these other crazy things. And I figured, something? Let me get somebody who is a clear thinker, who generally knows what he's talking about, and who can provide some perspective that really can make you take a step back and say, maybe I didn't look at it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. So without further ado, welcome back to the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast. The man, the most respected, we're talking about Lovell Porter of WrestleZone.com and BlackRabbit.com. What's going on, Porter?
Nothing much. When's the last time I was on your show?
It's been a while.
Has it?
It's
all right.
I
feel like we should commemorate this in some way. Guess who's back?
Oh,
back again.
Okay, don't quit your day job. You're not a rapper. You're not a singer. Just, you know.
Hey, Duke. Lovell's back. Okay, I'm done. What were you saying?
Or we can call you with you know, some of your former and current coworkers were calling you Lovell because they don't know how to say your name.
Yeah. There's certain individuals that aren't missed. Is it really that hard? Like back when I don't know if we've ever dived into how the two of us know each other, but back when we were kids in elementary school, do you ever remember like a teacher mispronouncing my name that way?
That was literally, and I kid you not, the first time in life I ever heard anyone mispronounce your name,
okay.
and was dead serious about it too.
It's like it's not hard.
You mean
say
Lovell,
how it's
right?
spelled.
It was bad. You mean Lovell, right? Oh my God, have I been calling the wrong name this whole time?
I think the first time I did a spot on the WrestleZone. I think it was was it Raw Rebellion was the name of the podcast. He actually brought that up and he apologized to me on air. He was like, "I'm so sorry. I was on Duke's podcast. I talked to Duke and he told me I was telling your name incorrectly this entire time." I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine."
I remember that actually.
All right, Duke, but you got me out of my hidey hole to be on tonight. What you got for me?
Well, first and foremost, tell everybody about your WrestleZone. So who are you over at WrestleZone, and why do they need to check that out?
So if you've ever gone to WrestleZone and you checked out the live coverage for, let's say, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the person doing the play-by-play, that's me. For the past, actually at this point, it's almost been 4 years, I've been covering Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and Impact Wrestling for WrestleZone.com. I've also spent some time interviewing some Impact Wrestling stars. I had a great interview with Santana from LAX, Rosemary, KM, who's ridiculously funny. It's hilarious based on how you see him on TV and how he was during the interview. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I spent a lot of my time covering your favorite wrestling shows for probably your favorite wrestling site.
So, in which everybody knows about WrestleZone, been around for a long time, excellent source for what's going on in wrestling, news, analysis, you name it. Mm-hmm. So you're a pretty important piece of the puzzle over there.
I'd say so. The millions a lot of the millions and millions of views that site gets on a weekly basis are based on my coverage. So, yay me.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And you got something else going on there. This new website, Black Rabbit. Tell everybody about Black Rabbit.
So Black Rabbit is actually a creation of my own. I'm the CEO. I'm the Tony Stark of this bitch, as I like to say. Are you going to edit that out? Because I like that line. You're not going to edit
No,
that
I'm going to leave that in there so people can know what kind of guy you are.
Great. I'm strangely okay with that. Essentially, it's a website geared towards the African-American experience, whether it comes to professional wrestling, a little bit, social media, entertainment. It's supposed to be a place where people like us can go to get our own personal perspective on entertainment. At least that's the premise.
Well, I can tell you, I've definitely encouraged people to check it out.
You've done some work for us, right?
Yeah, you feature some of my content on there, which is pretty cool. People enjoyed that, so it's a great website for a mixed bag of entertainment and, again, things that make you think. So check out Black Rabbit. Spell that for everybody for us there, boy.
BLAQUERABBT. Black Rabbit.
Are you okay today, Porter?
I'm not actually. My wife just walked in here and she's giving me alcohol, so I got slightly distracted. I put down this whole big speech about how I needed her to when she came in the house to be quiet as I was doing this interview. So she literally it was like a scene from a Scooby-Doo cartoon. She tiptoed in here and handed me a bear. So I was a little thrown off. So the site is www.blaqurabbit.com, which is exactly what I just said, but that's the handle there.
Good stuff. Mm-hmm. And so did you crack your beer open, Porter?
I already did. I'm drinking it right now. You can't hear it?
All right, there we go. And
it's a disgusting Corona without a lime, but I'll take it because it was, it didn't cost me a thing.
And shout out to Mrs. Porter. A little birdie told me that her birthday is actually coming up. So shout out to Mrs. Porter there. Happy birthday.
I will definitely tell her you said that.
Good stuff. So let's dive into this here because I'm curious.
What you got for me?
The last time you were on the show, WWE was enjoying being the only game in town, so to speak, as far as the top news in the wrestling world. And over the past few months, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, headed up by Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Shad Khan's money financing it and having his son Tony Khan be the president.
Duval.
This new wrestling promotion has hit the scene. And a lot of folks are talking about, WWE better be worried about this, and there's a war, and all these other, things going on here. What's your take on AEW in general and how WWE has responded to this new promotion being on the scene now?
Well, the first thing I feel compelled to say is the fact that anybody who says that there's a war between AEW and WWE, you might want to get drug tested. Disney isn't worried about the mom and pop shop that got opened up in Florida that has a carousel. You get what I'm saying? Like AEW, for what it is, it's great. It's a good place. It's great that people have a place to go work. It's great that they have is he a billionaire? I believe he's a billionaire, right? The Khans are billionaires.
He's not only a billionaire, he's richer than Vince McMahon. So he's one of the richest people in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's great that they have somebody backing them that can actually back them. It isn't like you and I decided to create our own wrestling organization. They have serious money behind them. It's all well and fine, but the WWE has 60, 70 years of history behind it. It's the WWE is Disney. That really is the best way to describe their place as far as the wrestling industry is concerned. No matter what AEW does for the next 5 to 10, even maybe 15 years, they're not really going to be legitimate competition. So I think that anybody who thinks that should put that out of their mind and just look at it for what it is. Again, it's great that the wrestlers have, another place to work. There's options. It's going to be great to see them on TV. But AEW is never going to be legitimate competition for the WB. That's the first thing. Now, as far as what AEW is and what people think it will be, based on what I've seen, I have some concerns. They haven't started their TV show yet, which is fine. Has it been three pay-per-view events at this point?
Under the AEW banner, they've had 3 pay-per-view events so far.
Okay. So you can take those events for what they were, but even if you look at this past event, Fight for the Fallen, if you weigh that up against what you saw at Extreme Rules. Now, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I didn't listen to your last episode, so I don't know if you've addressed this at all. But if you look at what Extreme Rules was and what Fight for the Fallen was, there's a vast valley of differences between the two. Extreme Rules was actually a really good show. Fight for the Fallen was okay. You see what I'm saying? Anybody who is interested in artificially creating this war between AEW and WWE, they need to stop. They're doing AEW a disservice. Any casual fan who happens to latch on AEW, if they hear the quote-unquote AEW faithful going on and on about how it's legitimate competition to WWE, and they go ahead and they watch a show that's nowhere near comparable to what WWE is putting out, it's gonna dissuade them from continuing to watch AEW, exploring other wrestling. It's a vicious circle. Everybody needs to just calm the hell down, let AEW develop to what it is, and then we can all just sit back and enjoy it. The more pro wrestling we have at the end of the day, the better. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree 100%.
It doesn't need to be a competition.
It's funny because I always describe AEW as what it is. It's a startup.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand new company that's going to need some time to make its mistakes and to learn from them and hopefully improve as a result of that. And it's funny because a lot of these AEW fans, they take that as an insult. Like, how dare you call them out and say they were a startup? Well, that's what they are. Like, they're not an established, well-built legacy brand like the WWE is. They're the new kid on the block who doesn't even know if they're going to be around in a couple years.
They're not even WCW if you think about it, because when WCW made its dent and the 83 weeks happened, before Ted Turner took over, WCW had history. Like they had things that they could draw upon, and regardless of whether or not they were actually legitimate challengers for the WWF at that point, they had their fans. You know what I'm saying? And it's generational, especially down south as far as pro wrestling is concerned. It's not the same thing. They had built-in fans when they started to heat up. AEW doesn't have that.
They not only do they not have that, they're not going to have that anytime soon. That takes time.
Right.
And,
exactly.
They're just a few months alive, if you want to, be frank about it. So, and again, they haven't launched their TV show, so let's give this thing some time to develop. It's not a knock; that's just the truth. Let me ask you a question, though, Porter,
sure.
because I posted a question on Twitter, and even at this moment, I mean, there's over 11,000 impressions, people chiming in and giving their opinion, mostly negative, by the way. But I asked the question, why Sonny Kiss isn't in the AEW title picture? I can think of at least 6 people who have been positioned in a manner that promotes them as being folks vying to be AEW champion. And Sonny Kiss is not one of them. And in fact, no person of color is one of them. It's all, just 6 white guys, which is the same old, same old. I've also asked the question about...
You don't count Brandy?
Well, I don't think she's vying for the World Championship, but what do I know? But I also asked the question about how they're presenting women's wrestling and why someone like Nyla Rose has lost matches and essentially been presented as being weak. Not someone who's a serious competitor or a threat to anything, just somebody who looks impressive but loses. People lost their mind. It's
go ahead.
It takes time. Diversity takes time. And
does it?
Why don't you give them time? And how dare you? This one doesn't look like a champion, and that one. Porter, what's your take on the response to asking where AEW's commitment to women's wrestling and their commitment to diversity is? Because these are things that they marketed themselves as what they're going to provide, and that's going to be the alternative.
Yeah, it's very strange to me that a group of individuals who claim that diversity and inclusion is their number one priority would relegate a talent like Sonny Kiss to the pre-show. Has Sonny Kiss even been on the main show at this point? I don't think so.
Good question, and the answer is no.
Yeah, I don't think so. Nyla Rose has, but I think in every match Nyla Rose has been in, she's eaten the pin. They did a better job with Nyla Rose this past show. I think it was this past show. It may have been. They're so close together, so it's hard to keep them together. But they did a good job of making Nyla Rose look like a monster when she was in the ring with the 2 Joshi women. I don't remember their names. But she looked like a monster that entire match. So going into it, she had the special entrance. She had the new entrance gear. It looked like it was going to be Nyla Rose, excuse the phrase, coming out party. But she has the monster spots in the match, but she also eats the pin. It's one thing to lose. It's another thing to eat the pin. What that says to me is that, and I can't sit here and say that I know this for a fact. I'm going based off of what my personal feelings. It's almost as if the diversity play was used to draw people in when AEW was just an idea. But when, in actuality, the individuals who were running AEW, when it came down to actually promoting that diversity within, the storylines and the matches, they decided, let's just go with a more normal way of presenting professional wrestling. There's been no mention of Nyla Rose's specific situation, which is a hell of a story, and it's something that, quite frankly, you should capitalize on if you're attempting to promote a company. I don't know why you wouldn't have this very, very deep and interesting story and not tell it. Like, we know the name Nyla Rose, we know that she's supposedly a monster, but we don't know anything else about her. Like, as far as Sunny Kiss is concerned, based on everything I've seen, Sunny Kiss is a great worker and should be promoted. They just strap, as Edge and Christian would say on their podcast, they should strap the rocket to Sunny's back and, shoot him straight to the top. Sunny checks off so many demographical boxes, it's ridiculous. Other than just being a great worker, there's Sunny Kiss's story as well. But the simple fact that, what did we see? It was even that freaking four-way match that they had with MJF and Shawn Spears and Darby Allin. Why couldn't Sunny be in that? Granted, they gave Sunny this great entrance on the pre-show that nobody really saw with the Jaguars cheerleaders. It was great production if you actually sat down and saw it. But again, who saw it? And at the end of the day, what does it matter? It happened on the pre-show. Pre-shows don't matter. So at the end of the day, do they really care about diversity, or was it just a ploy to get people interested in AEW when they were first talking about starting it?
And really, you answered the question I was just about to ask you. Where is their commitment to this quote-unquote diversity that they claim they were going to be delivering on?
Based on what I see, there isn't any. They've done nothing. They've done nothing. Like, at this point, Sunny Kiss and Nyla Rose would be better off in the WWE. I know for a fact they would exploit the hell out of their two personal situations.
Absolutely. And we don't have to dance around it. Let's talk about their personal situations. You have Nyla Rose, who is transgendered.
Mm-hmm.
That's no secret. Nyla Rose is very open about that. Sunny Kiss is a gay male. Mm-hmm. And doesn't hide that, has a boyfriend, and is out there and the whole nine yards. Which you're talking about people in the LGBTQ community,
which is huge.
People of color. And Nyla Rose is Native American, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Sunny Kiss is black. You have people who are out, belong to all these different communities, and are proud of who they are. Why wouldn't you position them in a manner that lets the world know they actually mean something, like you do? And again, this is you got Adam Page, and you have MJF, and you have this one, and the Young Bucks, and that one, and that. You're presenting these other people as somebody.
People say what they are. Say they're what's the phrase? Cisgendered white males with long blonde hair.
Absolutely, all of them.
Just saying, yeah.
So you can present them as being important, yet you can't do that with Nyla Rose and Sunny Kiss. Like, I just don't understand it. And
Nyla Rose was in a match with two Joshi women that almost none of the American audience knows who they are. Like, I know who they are, because I cover wrestling. But what I'm saying is why can't Nyla Rose win that match?
And why couldn't you build that match in a manner that lets you know that Nyla Rose even being in the match with those two mattered, which is something they did not do either. So it really makes me scratch my head. And furthermore, it's the fan base that they've cultivated. The people who are sticking up for this stuff, instead of asking, hey, what's going on here, guys? Are you going to change that? And if you're going to change that, when?
These are the same people that got upset when the McMahons stood in the ring, however many months ago it was, saying that, it's gonna be all about you. You're gonna make the decisions. You're gonna run the show. No more authority. Blah blah blah. The same people jumping up and down talking about how that was bullshit. The same people who are feeding into this AEW shit. It's crazy.
Here's the scary part about it. Since the WWE has made that announcement, and since AEW has come along, the alternative to what we've known as the pro wrestling business has actually been delivered by WWE instead of AEW.
How do you mean?
That just makes it blows my mind. Oh, look at some of the champions right now.
Oh, that's right.
Look at the fact that Kofi Kingston is the WWE champion. New Day are they the Raw or the SmackDown champions? SmackDown champions. Shinsuke Nakamura is the Intercontinental champion. like you start going down the list here, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing something here. This is, you know, you have a guy like Lashley who at any point can be put into the world title picture and compete. He's calling out Brock Lesnar right now. It looks like that we're going to be going in that direction. The Universal title picture.
Right.
So it's like you're getting your diversity. You're getting women in the main event, women in one of the last 3 matches of the night, and it's not just happening here and there. It's happening consistently, not only on the TV shows but also on the pay-per-views, which is where where the real money is being made, allegedly, right? So WWE has turned itself into an alternative of what they traditionally present. Meanwhile, AEW is looking a lot more like what WWE used to be. It's scary.
That's a pretty prophetic point. You should tweet that so I can sit back and grab my put my Michael Jackson red jacket on and a box of popcorn and read the comments.
Because people are going to lose their mind over it.
Oh, of course.
But what do you attribute to that, by the way? Is this just the latest example of the racist and the homophobe taking more offense that you call them out as opposed to their racism and their homophobia?
I think that may be a little bit extreme in this case. I don't know that it runs that deep as far as the AEW situation is concerned. I think it's just a flat-out dereliction of duty. I just think they don't know any better. They position themselves as an alternative when they just turned around and did exactly what this, the same old tried and true professional wrestling, WWE mode standard would be. It's like, we're going to be different. Well, actually, we don't know how to be different. So let's just do what we think works. That sort of a thing.
Well, and let me back up for a second. Just point out, I'm literally talking about the quote unquote fans responding to my questions about the product, not the company itself in that regard. Although I will say, I don't see how AEW is ever going to be able to offer an alternative when the people who are working backstage for them, for the most part, are former WWE people. So, where's your alternative when you're not even bringing in any new ideas to the table?
Well, to be fair, we can't say that they're not bringing any new ideas from that standpoint, because just because you worked in WWE and you moved within their system doesn't mean you agreed with the way that it was going. So it could be a situation where they're in a new situation and they feel like they can spread their wings and really dive into how they think wrestling should be. So I don't know that we can necessarily say that.
Well,
as far as
how could you not know we could say that when we have a product that's been presented, Porter? They've showed us what they are. It's not like this whole concept of give it time and let's wait. No. You actually put on 4 events, 3 of them under this AEW banner. And you have a web show, multiple web shows, by the way, which show what you're focusing on leading up to the event. You have a website. Everybody has social media. And all of those things you can tell are working in tandem based on what they're emphasizing. Because they're usually emphasizing the same thing, same days, around the same time. So there's a very clear cohesion going on here. At this point, what are we talking about?
I don't know though, because we don't know who are making these decisions. That's the reason why I feel like I'm hard pressed to say that the folks that used to work in WWE are the people who were driving this pseudo WWE style format for their shows. That's the reason why I hesitate to do that, because I don't know. You never know. Dean Malenko's there, right?
Dean Malenko is there. Arn Anderson is there unofficially because his non-compete is not up yet. So
I didn't know that.
Sure, the questions are being asked of him off the record, but we know Jim Ross is there. Cody Rhodes is there. Brandy is there.
But, you mentioned Jim Ross. We know for a fact he doesn't agree with the way that WWE does things. So, if he has a loud enough voice in the back, he may be trying to push to do things differently. But again, at the end of the day, the decision makers, the Codys, the Young Bucks, and I think Paige has like a VP position as well. Those people may feel differently. So that's the reason why I don't feel comfortable sitting here saying for sure that those are the individuals that are, causing the product to be what it is. But as far as the fans are concerned, It's tough, man. I don't want to draw the parallels to politics, but I kind of feel like I have to. The AEW fans remind me of the super liberal types. It's like they're so radicalized that, they'll rage against one thing, but if the same thing happens in a different way to someone that they actually care about, it twists and it's not as bad, and they try to come up with a reason for why it's okay. It's almost like, what is it, like the battered husband or wife syndrome?
Sure.
It's the same thing. It's like they want to be right so bad. Actually, this is a different point, but another way to look at it is they want to be right about AEW being better than WWE. So anything that you say on Twitter or Facebook or otherwise to counter that, you automatically become the enemy. So it doesn't matter how valid the point that you point out is. The fact that it's counter to what they want to be true, it's never going to chart with them, and they're always going to find a way to argue with you. It's a personality thing. You know what I'm saying? They want something to be true so goddamn bad that they'll do anything to make it true.
And that's legitimately to the detriment of the long-term success of AEW.
Because, like I said earlier, stuff like that would drive off the new fans. Like I wasn't so entrenched in pro wrestling as I am right now, like seeing some of the interactions between the AEW faithful and the WWE faithful, it's very off-putting. Like I don't want to be part of that. It doesn't seem like it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. That's what this is all supposed to be about. You're supposed to be able to sit down, watch wrestling, escape from whatever you have going on, and enjoy yourself. But if two people are spending so much time bickering back and forth, who wants to be part of that?
Well said. Well said. What do you think about what's happening with the WWE in terms of ratings right now? We talk so much about AEW. Let's talk about WWE for a second, because and full disclosure, and everybody who listens to the show, we've already beaten the horse to death around the fact that television ratings tell a very small story, or a very small aspect of the larger story here. Mm-hmm. But this is what everybody knows, because the Dave Meltzers of the world, they want you to focus on the ratings, and WWE's in trouble because their ratings are down, and it's down. They don't want to talk about all TV. WWE's ratings are down. Well, WWE's been number one in Raw and SmackDown, consistently in the top three. Mm-hmm. Especially this past week, both shows kicked butt. They kicked butt the week before that, but both shows are doing the show after WrestleMania numbers. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Is this something that is just another trend that's going to disappear soon enough, or do you think this is a sign of things to come?
I'm not 100% sure this is going to be sustainable. If you look at the recent rise in ratings, it coincides with the announcement that Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff were going to be actively in charge of Raw and SmackDown, respectively. I think that a lot of it is, current fans and lapsed fans tuning in to see what's going to happen. Because with that announcement, everybody's waiting to see, again, what's going to happen. Everybody thinks, on Raw something crazy is going to happen. Somebody's going to get put through barbed wire, some crazy like that. Or on SmackDown with Eric Bischoff, everybody's waiting for, Roman Reigns to turn heel like Hogan did. That sort of a thing. I don't know that this bubble is going to, I know for a fact that this bubble is going to burst at some point. Because everybody's waiting for the WWE to, swing and hit a home run based on these two new hires. It's one of those things where it's literally, as you said, the Raw after WrestleMania. People always tune in because they want to see what's going to happen. People are going to do that for the next few weeks because, again, they want to see what's going to happen. Now, I don't know that anything sweeping is going to happen that's going to make it worth it. And, if something does happen, obviously that's a way that they can hold the fans and, maybe even get some more of those lapsed fans, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, getting the lapsed fans to come back. If they're able to do that, fine. But I don't know that they're going to be able to sustain, what they've had over the past few weeks, because, again, it's everyone wants to, it's all about the unknown. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen. At a certain point, those lapsed fans that are tuning in, and even the constant fans who tune in this week and maybe not the next week, they're going to give up if something big doesn't happen. So,
and based on what you've seen thus far, has what's happened been big enough?
Not at all. We had the big Money in the Bank cash in, at Extreme Rules, which is fine. I think it was the first Raw after the Paul Heyman announcement when he was officially in charge. That show was pretty good. That's the show that had Braun Strowman and Lashley go through the LED board. Well, it started strong, but it ended sort of weak. But you could tell that the vibe on the show was a little bit different. Even the wrestlers in the ring during the matches, they seemed like they were trying a little bit harder. But that hasn't carried on as far as the match quality with Raw. So I don't know. I don't think it's sustainable. And based on what we've seen, it doesn't seem like there's any way that it will be.
Interesting points. Well, what do you expect to see come October, Porter, when AEW is on TV officially, when WWE SmackDown Live has moved to Fox, regular Fox, not Fox Sports 1, not Fox News Channel, but regular Fox. It's on all TVs. What do you expect to see out of all that?
I think that I don't know how we're going to get there. But I would be shocked if, by the Fox debut, both Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey were on that Fox show. I think that's going to happen. If the WWE is smart, and I've heard some rumors about this actually happening, they'll take NXT, make it live, and air it on FS1 at exactly the same time AEW airs, or the hour before, or what have you. Make the show 2 hours, or what have you, and have it overlap with AEW. The WWE isn't necessarily, they're not concerned with AEW, but they'd be dumb not to be, interested in AEW, if you get my meaning. Paying attention to what they're doing, seeing how you can slightly put your thumb on their forehead just a little bit, just to make sure that, they can get big, but not so big. They'll never really challenge us, that sort of a thing. Those are the two key moves that I think will happen. Other than that, I don't... Based on listening to, Eric Bischoff's, the podcast and just seeing how he handled WCW, I don't 100% know how different he can possibly make SmackDown. I don't know that he'll have based on the roster right now, I don't know that he would have the talent roster that he would feel that he can, really mold. Obviously that can change between here and now, but it's really hard to say. But other than that, I don't see the WWE doing too much more than that. They'll try to bolster the SmackDown Live roster because at the end of the day, SmackDown's always kind of been the little brother to Raw. That's the reason why Roman Reigns is there now, and that's the reason why I'm predicting that Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey will end up there as well. I think one of the reasons why Ronda Rousey hasn't been around, other than just giving her time off and letting her hand heal that she broke during WrestleMania, is to, make it so that the people who watch Raw, they'll remember that she was there, but when she shows up on SmackDown, it won't be a disconnect from the standpoint of, oh, I thought she was supposed to be on Raw, that sort of a thing. It's going to be a clean break between her and Raw, but that's just my theory.
Well, as usual, expert analysis there by the well-respected Lovell Porter. Porter, if anyone listening wants to get in touch with you or read what you have to say out there on social media, what's the best way they can reach you?
I've been spending a hell of a lot of time on Twitter as of late. I don't know if my commute's long or what it is, but Twitter's probably the best way. You can hit me on Twitter at AboveAverageLLP, at AboveAverageLLP. And for you real wrestling heads, you'll get the reference. I'm sure Duke doesn't because he's not really one of us, but that's neither here nor there. But that's really the best way to get in contact with me.
It's unfortunate, Porter, that you come on the show and we're having such a nice, harmonious discussion. We didn't have too many disagreements there, just a couple of hiccups. And then you have to ruin everything with the last nonsense. As if I don't know who above average Mike Sanders is.
Here you go. Okay. All right. I take that back. Apparently Duke must be one of us. Sort of, kind of, but not really.
His name is Lovell Porter. Porter, we'll be checking back in with you, especially as the quote-unquote wrestling war officially begins.
Slap fight. It's more of a slap fight.
As always, good stuff from the well-respected Lovell Porter of WrestleZone.com and BlackRabbit.com. We don't always agree on a lot of things, but hey, I respect the fact that the man takes time to really think about what he's saying. He does his research. He does a great job with the writing that he does. He recaps the shows. Just talented dude. Good dude. It's funny because we talked about that tweet that I had about Sonny Kiss and asking the question, why isn't Sonny Kiss in the AEW title picture? And the response that I received from alleged fans, mostly negative. You know, a lot of these folks, they are offended by the fact that someone would even ask, why isn't a person of color being presented as someone who's competing for the championship? And you know, Sonny Kiss is just one example. I mean, this Scorpio Sky, I don't know about this Michael Nakazawa, but you can mention him too. It's just, you have so many people at the top of AEW. People like Chris Jericho and Adam Page. We know that one of those two people is going to be the first AEW champion. We know that Kenny Omega was in the semifinals, so automatically he should be in discussion, right? We know John Moxley attacked them both. We know MJF has a problem with Adam Page. And we know that Cody Rhodes is out there. So, it's a bunch of white guys in a promotion that claims they're going to be diverse. And through 3 pay-per-views, we haven't seen that diversity. And I asked the question, and people act as if me asking that question is a bigger problem than AEW not delivering on what they claimed, what they were going to market to us. No, it's not enough that Sonny Kiss is in the promotion. What does that even mean? Sonny Kiss is a solid wrestler. Sonny Kiss is somebody who turns heads. He commands your attention when he's on the screen. Sonny Kiss is a star. You couldn't find room to tell Sonny Kiss's story and put him in a position where Sonny Kiss is considered a contender for the championship? Then you got Nyla Rose on the other side, where you don't know what to do with Nyla Rose in the women's division. Nyla Rose is just losing all over the place or not even on the card at all. Women can't even get in one of the last 3 spots on any of your events so far. How does that work? Asking promotions to actually deliver on what they claim they're about. I don't think that's something that is hard to understand. I don't think that's a concept that should be looked upon as a negative. Just give me what you say you're going to give me. What's so hard about that? I don't know. It's interesting. And so many of you say, well, hey, you just wait. You know, it takes time. I don't know how much time you need. You had 3 events so far. How much more time do you need to promote what you claimed you are all about? I got to give you more time to do that? Why? Can't walk in the door doing that? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. But okay. Well, I'm sure more of you would be upset. You know, it's funny. One of the people that sent me messages was telling me, you got to give us time. You got to wait for what we're doing. And I looked at that person's Twitter profile and noticed that they didn't have many tweets or many followers. They weren't following many people. Something like 50, they were following like 50 people and maybe 1 or 2 people were following them. It's really strange. It made me wonder if it was like a dummy account or, you know, maybe somebody from AEW messed up. They went under some fake account and they started talking that we stuff by accident because, you know, it was just a normal thing for them. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I just know one thing. I have spent far too much time giving a damn about pro wrestling, making it part of my life, my entire life, enjoying it. I want to see it continue to improve. That's why I called out WWE about their lack of black world heavyweight champions. And that's changed since we've beaten that drum hard. Imagine that. Call out WWE because women were not being featured. That's changed. They're in the main event now. Still calling them out about the union busting and some of these other issues, women not getting paid as much, and we'll get there. I know we're going to get there because the heat is on. You know that song? So there's no, favoritism here. Everybody can get it. Everybody's going to get it. AEW, it's your turn too. You can't even provide proper accessibility seating for people in wheelchairs. And you have the audacity to not feature women in prominent roles. And don't give me this Brandy Rose stuff. I'm talking about, you said you were serious about women's wrestling. And yet, the last 3 matches on the card, out of 3 straight cards, women aren't in any of those matches. And don't even get me started on the lack of diversity. I think we've covered that a lot this episode. What are you doing? And people listening, what are you doing? Are you asking these questions too? Why not? Strange. But you'll call out the president, though, I hope. Alleged president. I don't know. Join us next week, folks. I got to get out of here. This was a really serious episode here. We got into some really deep stuff. That's what it's all about. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Take it away, Tony Schiavone.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.